Your spreadsheet just told you something. Over budgeting, right? Not because someone typed that, because you wrote a formula that checks your data and decide what to say automatically. Every time the data changes, the message updates. That is what if statements do. And by the end of this episode, writing them will feel obvious. Welcome back to 0 to X0 episode 6. In episode 5, we covered the 12 formulas every beginner needs, and if was ranked 2 on that list. Today, we go deep on everything if can do, because one episode wasn't enough. We are building a commission calculator from scratch in today's episode. It uses real sales data, calculates different commission rates depending on performance, and produces a result that you actually use in a business. Open the budget tracker from episode 4 or download the episode's 6 starter file from the description, and let's go. Before we build anything, let's make sure the foundation is solid. An if statement always has 3 parts. That's it. 3 parts, always the same order. If, the condition, what to do if true, and what to do if false. Here is the real world way to read it. If this thing is true, do this. Otherwise, do that. Let me show you the simplest possible example before we use it in our project. If, what is the condition? That's the logical text. If 5 is greater than 3, say yes. That's what we want to say if it's greater than 3. If not, say no. And you can see the output is yes. You don't need data for this, just pure logic. The condition is if 5 is greater than 3, so the formula returns yes. Now let's change it. Let's use if 5 is greater than 10. And you can see the answer is no, because 5 is not greater than 10. The formula is reacting to the logic in real time. Now let's apply it to real data. In our sales data, we have the total sales column and we have the targets column. I want to flag every row where the salesperson hits their target. So let's write an if statement equals to if the sales, which is here, is greater than or equals to the target, then you say hit target. Otherwise, missed. So let's close it. Yes. So if you look at it, it's showing hit target. And you can copy this down to show for other column. And where it missed target is showing missed target. I've already applied conditional formatting to this row. That's why the missed target is showing as red and the hit target is showing as green. You can look at our previous video to see about conditional formatting. There are 3 things you need to remember about if statements. The first one here is your text values needs quotes. If you are putting a text value, you need to put a quote. Numbers and cells reference don't need a quote. The condition uses comparison operators, which is equals to, greater than, less than, greater than, equals to, or less than, or not equals to. Then the third thing is you can use a formula as the condition. Example here is if the sum of B2 to B2 is greater than 10,000, INR or standard. So the condition doesn't have to be simple. It can be a very complex formula within your if formula. You can decide to change your Q1 and Q2 and see how your formula here changes the result. Let's move to the next one. What if one condition isn't enough? What if you need to check 2 things at once? That's what and or are for. And they always live inside an if function. And means both condition must be true, while your or means at least one condition must be true. Let's go to our sheet again. So what we want to check is if each salesman should receive bonus. And how do we know if the salesman will receive a bonus? If the person have 20 plus customer and also have a total sales that is above 50,000. If the person have more than 20 customer and have a total sales that is above 50, that's what will determine if the person will have bonus or not. So let's use our if statement. In this case, the 2 situations must be true. So it will be and if So you type in your AND function, open another bracket. So what's the first logical test in the AND function? This must be greater than or equals to 50,000, comma. The second logical test is the customer must be greater than or equals to 20. So you've written your logical test in your AND function. The AND function is telling you these two situations must be true before you go ahead. And if the two situation is true, you will say the person is eligible for bonus. So let's say the person is eligible for bonus. So I've copied this my Mac function. If you are using a MacBook, you can use your command, control, and spacebar to look for this symbol. So this person is eligible for bonus. And if the two situation is not true, you say no bonus. So let's close the bracket and let's press our enter key. So you can see in this case, the sales is above 50. Okay, sorry. I think we use the target. So let's change it to the sales. So it should be the sales. Cool. Okay. The sales is above 50 and his customer is more than 20. So let's drag this down to fill all the other column. And you can see where the two situations are met, you have, if you look at, let's look at any situation where the two situations are not met. Look at this person. He has more than 20 customers, but he has less than 50,000 sales. That's for that. So let's see how we can use our OR statement also. And we can use an OR statement for this same thing, in this case, so that you will see the difference between the OR and the AND statement. So for the OR statement, we will say the same logical test inside the OR. This is greater than or equals to 50,000, or this is greater than or equals to 20. You close your OR bracket, then this case, let's just use the word eligible, not eligible. Close our bracket, and that's it. So let me pull this down and you see the difference. So look at this place. The person did not meet both targets. Well, that's why it's not eligible. But if you look down here, the person did not miss the sales target, but he missed the number of customer target. So it makes him eligible. So for the OR statement, it's saying either one of the targets is met, makes the person eligible, while for the AND statement, it's saying both targets must be met before the person is eligible. So you can use this to build a complex logic. It can be more than 2 conditions. It can be 3, 4, or 5 conditions, as many as you want. You put them in the AND or the OR statement, and it will give you the right answer. So if your criteria for commission is for the salesperson to hit target and have customer that is above 20, then you can know who are eligible for commission. This is the one people find scary. Nested if. Let's demystify it in under 2 minutes. A nested if is just an if inside another if. You do it when you have more than 2 possible outcomes. Imagine a grading system, A, B, C, D, E, or F. That's like 5, 6 outcomes. Basic if can only give you 2. So you nest them. Here's how to think about it if you are building a chain of question. If the score is 90 or above, if yes, A. If no, ask the next question. Is the score 80 or above? Then if yes, B. Or ask the next question, and so on and so on. So in Excel, how do you do it? You put if the score is above 90, remember to always start from the highest or the biggest value and move to the lowest value. If the score is above 90, the answer is A, comma. Instead of writing your what it will be for if it's not, you will put another if. If the score is above 80, let it be B. Else, if not, that's how you continue to go over it. So let's try that with this. Look at, we've set the value here. If sales is above 50,000, a top tier. If it's above 25,000, senior. If sales is above 10,000, standard. And if every other thing is base rate, which is 5%. So let's go with it. Equals to your if function. What's the first logical test? If the sales is above or equals to 50,000, comma. What do you want it? Let's give it a name. Let's say platinum, comma. So for the first value, you use another if statement. Then in this case, if sales is above, the same sales is above or equals to 25,000, comma, what do you want it to be? The person should be rated as a good salesperson, comma. What will be the first statement here? Because we still have more than two, you'd use another if statement. So the next if statement is if the sales is above, this same sales is above 10,000, comma. What do we want to call the person? Silver salesperson. Then we only have one other thing left, which is less than 10,000. For that, you will just say bronze for your first. You don't need to put another if statement because that's the last one. And you close your bracket. Yes, because I need to close all the brackets. You have like 3 brackets open, I need to close them. So platinum, you can drag this down and you see the magic here. You can see this is below 50,000, this is above 50,000, this is below 10,000. That's why it's bronze. So these are the ranking of your sales person based on their performance. And instead of using this value, let me use it another way. Let me put their commissions there directly. You can also just put their commissions directly. Equals to if this is above 50,000, you say what's the percentage commission? 15%. 15%. Then you use another if. What's the logical? If the sales is above or equals to 25,000, that's 12%. Command. For your first statement, another if. If the sales is above or equals to 10,000, what percentage are you giving the person? He said 8%. And for the last one, those are below 10,000, you give them 5%. And you close your brackets, all your brackets, and you enter your enter key. So you can see this is showing in fraction. I can easily make it percentage. So this is your commission calculator. It's already showing you the percentage of the commission the person is going to receive. So you can use this to calculate for your commission. And this we did here, you can use it to calculate for your commission. There is what we call the ifs function. That's the if with an S. That nested if formula we just wrote works, but honestly, it's hard to read. If you have Excel 2019 or of Microsoft 365, there is a cleaner way. It's called the ifs function. Immediately use the if function, you just be putting the condition and the result, and so on and so forth. So let's try it with our commission calculator once again. Same logic, flat structure, no bracket inside bracket, no matching up parentheses, just straightforward. So this table has other things we have done to show you. The other ones we've done on a separate table, we have it here. So I just want to show you the ifs function. What was the first logical test? We want your total sales to be greater than or equals to 50,000. If it's greater than or equals to 50,000, what do you want? You want 15% commission. That's the value if true. What's the next condition? If your total sales is greater than or equals to 25,000, you want 12% commission. You continue the same way. What is the next logical test? If this is greater than or equals to 10,000, what do you want to be? 8% commission. Then the last logical test, you don't need to write it, but you can just put true, because whatever is true, you give it 5% commission. You don't need to write the logical test again. Then you close your brackets, just one, and you are done. And when you drag it down, you will see it working out. You will see it working out. And you can see for this person, 15% commission on his sales is this. For this 12% commission, because the sales is less than 50,000 is this. And for those that are less than 10,000, this is their sales commission. Simple and straightforward. That true at the end for the 5% is equivalent to the final false. Here is my recommendation. If you have 2 outcomes, use basic if. If you have 3 or 4 outcomes, use nested if. If you have 5 or more outcomes, use ifs. It's more easier to read and maintain. Let's pull all this together in a real project. We have a sales team table. Salesperson name is here. The salesperson's department is here. This is the Q1 sales. This is the Q2 sales. Total sale is Q1 and Q2. And your target is, the target for each salesperson is this. So your step 1 is to have your total scale. Your steps 2 is to know if the person hits target or not using a single if statement. The step 3 is using your if statement to calculate the bonus for each staff, for each salesperson. And your step 4 is to calculate the commission. How do you calculate the commission? It's just to multiply by the sales, which is here, is multiply the sales by the commission rate. It will give you your commission. Step 5 is to know if the person is eligible for bonus or not, which you have in this place. And the last step is to show the commission on those who miss their target and those who hit their target. And you can see that here. So let me make it bolder. And you see, we use sum if formula to calculate commission for those that meet their target hitter, which will amount to $75,000 plus. And for those that miss their target, this is their commission. And you want to count if the number of people that meet their targets out of this total salesperson is 7 out of 10, and the average commission per rep is 7,000, and average commission per those that meet target is 10,000. That is a complete working commission calculator. 6 formulas, everything we have learned across this series. Sum if, and, or, and if, all in one file. Drop a comment with the most creative real-world use you can think of for if statement. I will feature the best ones in next week's community post. The commission calculator file is in the description. Free download. It has all 6 formula previewed and a blank version to practice in. Quick summary. Basic if gives you 2 outcomes, and an or lets you combine conditions. Nested if gives you multiple outcomes. If does the same thing more clearly. The rule for all of them: say it in English first and then translate it to Excel. One thing I want to say before we go: if statement looks intimidating because of the bracket, but you are just written formulas with 4 levels of logic inside them, and you understood every step, that's not beginner level thinking. That's how analysts and finance professionals think in Excel. In episode 7, we are doing charts, specifically the charts that are actually worth making. How to remove all the noise that makes Excel charts looks amateur, and how to build the kind of data visualization you would see in boardroom presentation. We are also adding a chart to this commission calculator we just built. Episode 7 is right up there. Subscribe, and I will see you there.